What's up, guys? In today's video, we're going to be talking about what you can do to get paid faster for your water damage claims. If you guys have been in restoration for some time, you will know that insurance companies don't like to pay claims, and if they can stretch it out 30, 60, 90, or 150 days, they will. So why do they do this? Well, we're going to break it all down in this video, and I'm going to tell you something. You will not believe the numbers that you're going to see. In this video, I will show you how you can get paid more quickly, and I will show you why it takes so long to get paid. Here's the deal. If you own a restoration company, you do not want to miss this video. Let's go. All right, guys, so as we get started, do me a favor, hit the like and the subscribe button, drop a comment down below, and let me know where you guys are tuning in from. All right, guys, so as we get started, here's the first thing I want to tell you. We're going to break down the idea of estimates and invoices. Now, I'm going to ask you a question. Have you ever turned in an invoice to an insurance company, okay, and then when you call them to check on your invoice, they simply call it an estimate? Like, no matter how many times you go back and be like, yes, no, I submitted my invoice 3 weeks ago. Yeah, well, I just need the number of the estimate so I can. They can't say the word invoice. Why is that? Have you ever wondered why they can't say the word invoice? Well, there is a reason. So first off, let's just take a look at what is an invoice, what is an estimate, okay? Typically, an invoice describes something that says, hey, the work is done, this amount is due. It is no longer negotiable. That's what an invoice is, okay? Now, what is an estimate? An estimate, on the other hand, is typically a document that represents work that is not yet complete, right? But more importantly, it is still negotiable. That's the bigger point. It's not just that the work is not done. The bigger idea is that the amount on the estimate is negotiable. So we've got invoices and we've got estimates, okay? So they want to call your invoice an estimate for the reason that they want the money to be negotiable, okay? That's why they can't use the I word, all right? It's like they've learned a long time ago, they will not call it an invoice, they're going to call it an estimate, all right? So you just need to be aware of that, okay? All right, so we've talked about estimates and we've talked about invoices. So let's talk about why don't they want to pay your estimate and how can we get them to pay your estimate, okay? And these are going to be things that we'll be talking about at the Water Damage Bootcamp that's coming up here in Tampa. You can go to waterdamagebootcamp.com and get more information if you're watching this video. Maybe it'll be before the bootcamp, I'm not really sure. So let's talk about what is an invoice. An invoice typically represents damages. This work has been done for this amount. That represents that, okay? Like, so I've got this piece of paper here. This would actually be an invoice, and that represents damages that have been incurred. But see, they don't call it an invoice, they call it an estimate. Now, let me tell you something. Insurance companies don't owe for estimates. They owe for damages, okay? Damages. So what is a damage? Well, let's assume that if you get 3 companies to come out and give you a quote-unquote estimate for a rebuild or for a water mitigation job, 3 companies come out there, you're going to get 3 different numbers, okay? That's just a fact. You're going to get 3 different numbers. Doesn't matter what it is. Every company's a little bit different. Doesn't matter the platform you write it in. They're going to be slightly different one way or the other, and you're going to get 3 different numbers. Well, which one does the insurance company owe for? I don't know. That's really still up for debate, right? I'm going to tell you which one it is. The one that you use, that's what they actually owe for, okay? So now we need to look at the idea of estimates and damages. When does a claim or when does an estimate go from an estimate to damages? When they actually get paid, okay? Once that estimate is paid, those are now costs incurred. Once the costs have been incurred, now they become damages. So they don't owe for estimates because an estimate is negotiable. We don't know if it's going to be $7,000, $6,100, or $3,400. There's 3 different companies that came out there that gave them 3 different numbers. Which one does the insurance company owe for? They're going to want to owe the least amount of money. That's the one they're going to want to go with. But what happens if the owner pays the higher amount? Bada boom, bada bing. Now we're talking. Let me tell you, here's how I learned this lesson, okay? I was getting just yanked around for years doing this thing. And one particular job came up and I kind of discovered this over a period of months, if not years, right? And there were certain carriers, I think this one was Erie that we were working with. And there was a guy, his name was Chad. I remember that, I don't remember his last name. But I just knew the games that Erie were playing. And I was like, hey, Chad, listen, I reached out to the adjuster while the job was going on. The adjuster didn't want to talk to me, okay? So I told Chad, I was like, hey, these guys typically like to play games. I want them to approve this or this dollar amount, okay? And the adjuster didn't want to talk. He didn't want to play ball. This is back when I used to talk to adjusters before I did the work. Shouldn't do that either. So I went ahead and I did the work. I turned in the bill to the adjuster, and then suddenly the adjuster wants to call me and talk about the bill. And I'm like, bro, I've already tried to talk to you about this. The work is done. I'm not negotiating anything anymore. I tried to do that before we did it. You didn't want to talk. Now you want to talk. I ain't talking. Okay. So anyway, long story short, Chad kept asking me to go back and go talk to the adjuster over and over and over again. And I was like, Chad, I'm not doing it. Okay. This is going to be your bill. And ironically, this is about $7,500. I was like, you just need, I told him, if they don't pay the bill, you're going to owe me the money. I said, because this guy's not talking to me. If you want me to do this work, that's fine. But if they don't pay it, you're paying me. And I told him that straight up. So he said, Shane, just have the conversation one more time with the adjuster. I did. The adjuster wanted to pay like $3,000 on a $7,500 invoice. Okay. Can't remember Chad's situation. He avoided me over and over again, but we had his credit card on file. And after the adjuster said, I'm paying you the $3,000 and that's it. Boom. I just hit his card with the remaining balance. No questions asked. All right. And Chad called me a couple weeks later and he just said, hey, based on, I saw that you charged my card. I guess that means it didn't go so well. And I was like, no, I mean, they're just playing games. Well, here's what Chad did. And this is what many of the other clients that I had started to do afterwards. They went back to the adjuster and they said, listen, I've got email after email where my contractor tried to talk to you about this job, about this claim, about the pricing, about the scope. You guys pushed him off. He went ahead and did the work and I've got this bill, okay? And you guys want to pay him $3,000, but I paid him $7,500. And here's the deal. Chad demanded to be repaid and they paid him back. They paid him back the other $4,500. And here's what I began to learn. You see, they didn't owe Chad $7,500 until Chad had paid $7,500. They did not owe Chad $7,500 until he incurred $7,500. Because if they paid me $3,000 and I didn't go after Chad, I did not go get that balance, they would not owe any more money. Do you understand? They owed the remaining $4,500 when the card got charged and the damages became cost incurred. Okay, so are we clear? So they don't owe for estimates of damages, they owe for damages. Are we clear? There's a really big difference. They don't owe for estimates of damages, they owe for damages. So when does an estimate become a damage? Bam, when it gets paid. That's right. So ultimately, if you can collect that balance from the customer or from the client, then you can tell them with certainty, ma'am, I promise you this, once these costs are incurred, you pay me, I will promise you that I will work with you and you will get paid back the balance. I've never seen anybody not. And I'm telling you guys, I started doing this and I had $15,000 balances get cleared up suddenly. $15,000. These insurance companies were playing games, but the insurance company has to indemnify the client for the cost incurred. And that's what wound up happening. And that's what we started doing over and over, year after year. And that's what we teach our clients now. If you want to know more about how we do this, you can go to workwithshane.com. We get on a 15-minute call and I can tell you more about it there. But here's the deal. Know this, they don't owe for estimates. They don't owe for estimates of damages. They owe for damages. Okay? They owe for damages. So now we know why they call it an estimate versus an invoice. Is that fair to say? Now, let's talk about something else. Why does it take so long to get paid? Why does it take so long to get paid? I mean, they cut the recon check like on day 7, right? So why do they hold on to the mitigation payment? Man, let's get into the meat and potatoes of this. So I did a little homework, okay? And I got to pull this up. So do you know how much insurance companies make, by the way? I pulled this up the other day. Let me see if I can find this guy right here. This is from good old Snake Farm right here. I pulled this up in 2023. Snake Farm took in $30.5 billion in premiums. But these cats, poor dudes, they spent $28 billion. Okay? And so they go back and they say they had a $4 billion loss. I don't believe that, by the way. Okay? I don't believe that at all. But just think about that. Let's just assume at face value that they spent $28 billion in claims. $28 billion. Okay? $28 billion. Let me ask you a question. Do you know what the daily interest rate is on $28 billion? Do you know the daily interest rate? Well, I'm going to show you because I knew you might want to know this. So let's go back over here. Let's share the screen again. Right here we do, ladies and gentlemen. $28 billion, okay, at a 4% interest rate is $3 million a day, dog. $3 million a day times 30. So let me tell you something, guys. Here's what this means. If they can just delay the payment of every claim, they paid out $28 billion. If they can just delay the payment of every check by 30 days, that is $90 million per month that they are making in interest in their own money, and it does not get reported onto the books, ladies and gentlemen. If they can delay your payment by 2 months, that is $1.8 billion every 60 days. Now, do you understand why it takes so long to get paid? They want to make it right. I promise you they want to make it right. But they'd love to make it right for a little bit less, and they'd love to make it right in 60 days or 90 days if we can. Guys, do you understand why insurance is such a racket? You're going to sit there and look at that. $28 billion, that is State Farm's numbers. Those are not my numbers. And 4%, they could get 4% in their own life insurance policies. They could yield 4% in their own policies. And ladies and gentlemen, do not think for 1 second, they are not taking the money that you paid them in the way of premiums, and they are investing it, and they are not giving you your money back. And they're making all that money on it. That's how they sponsored the Super Bowl. That's how they sponsored the national championship. That's how you know you're in some good hands, okay? I'm picking on State Farm right here, but they're all the same, ladies and gentlemen. Okay? All right, so we've talked about estimates versus invoices. We've talked about the daily interest rate that they get. Let's talk about one other thing real quick. So for some of you guys, and this is a maybe feel like an unrelated point, but let me tell you this. Do you realize that insurance companies have shareholders? Okay, these are publicly traded companies in most cases, right? They have shareholders. That means people invest into their company, okay? The company has a fiduciary responsibility to their shareholders to make a profit. They have a fiduciary responsibility to their shareholders, the investors into their company, not to overpay on a claim. It's a fiduciary responsibility. Fiduciary is another way of saying a legal obligation. They have a legal obligation not to overpay on a claim. That's not hard to say. That's not hard to understand. You know what? To be honest with you, I get it, okay? I don't want the insurance company going out of business. If I got a life insurance policy, which I do, I have life insurance policies with State Farm. I don't want them to go out of business, okay? I don't want them to go bankrupt and my insurance policies go bananas. I want them to maintain that. So they have a fiduciary responsibility to make the best use of my money. Does that make sense? So if they have a fiduciary responsibility not to overpay on a claim, that is just like saying they have a fiduciary responsibility to pay as little as possible on a claim. Do you understand? Do you understand? If the fiduciary responsibility is not to overpay, that is the exact same thing as pay as little as possible. Because if you could buy it for $1, paying $2 is irresponsible. Let me say it differently. If you could hold on to the money longer and get them to settle for 50 cents on the dollar, that's what you should do. Now you should understand why the insurance companies call your invoices estimates. Now you should understand why they want to stretch out the payment by 30, 60, 90, 120 days. So now you understand why they want to reduce the payment. Guys, they want to make it right. They want to make the customer whole. They want to pay the contractor, but they want to do it for as little as possible, and they would love to stretch it out as long as possible. Are the pieces starting to come together for you? Is the fog clearing? Are you starting to understand the thing here? And here's the reason why I tell you Xactimate, it's not about clarity. There's nothing wrong with your estimate, okay? There's nothing wrong with that. Everything else I just told you today about estimates and invoices and daily interest, okay? And not overpaying on a claim or paying as little as possible as a fiduciary responsibility. This is the reason why it's hard to get paid, ladies and gentlemen, okay? This is why I tell you Xactimate is not the problem or the solution. You understand? What I've just talked about. This is the elephant in the room that nobody talks about, okay? That's the problem. And if you think that you using Xactimate and using some more notes fixes all this, well, you're just a fool. You are a fool. A fool. Like you think Xactimate, how does that dismiss anything that we stated today? That they have the fiduciary responsibility, that they make that amount of money every day in daily interest, okay? About the estimates and damages. You tell me why they can't say the I word. I don't know. This is why. And this is why I tell you insurance is a game. And if you're in the restoration business, you should know. Man, I'm feeling myself right now. Y'all feeling this? Drop a comment down below. Let me know. And subscribe. Do me a favor. Share this on social media if you like this stuff. I make these videos just for you. Okay? Listen, if you guys want to know more about me, helping you get paid, helping you with your estimates, your invoices, go to workwithshane.com. We can chat it out. So listen, here's what I want you to know more than anything else. Insurance is a game, and these are the facts, okay? This doesn't make them bad people. I mean, they're bad people, but for different reasons, Okay, did y'all see that 60-minute special came on recently? Dirty dogs, y'all, dirty dogs. And this is the reason why you need to learn how to play the insurance game. You have to protect your client, okay? I'm telling you, the client, the insured, and the insurer, they are not on the same team, dog. They are not. They're on opposite sides of the table. It's your duty as the contractor to enlighten your client as the treacherous journey that they're going to begin from water damage claim to getting paid, okay? And this is what I always said at my company, right? This is what we did. We wanted to guide them through the process so that they were better off by working with us than not working with us, okay? So hopefully you're doing the same. But if that is true for you, you're gonna need to learn how to play this game. If you guys enjoyed that video, I've got 3 things for you. First off, there's a couple of other videos somewhere on the screen. You can click those now to go watch more content about growing your restoration company. Number 2, if you haven't already subscribed, click my face below and that will subscribe you to the channel. And finally, if you would like for me to help you grow your restoration company, go to workwithshane.com, put in your information, and let's get on a 15-minute call. We'll see you then.